Before we had words, we had rhythm. Before we had nations, we had melody. In this installment of the Human Odyssey, we journey back to the very dawn of humanity to uncover the electrifying story of music. Join me as we track its evolution from a primal pulse echoing in a cave to the grand symphonies that filled royal courts. From the soulful cries of the blues to the digital beats that move millions. This isn't just a history of notes and scales. It's the story of us. It's an epic tale of innovation, rebellion, and the unrelenting human need to give sound to feeling. It's the story of how a simple vibration in the air became the soundtrack of our entire existence. I'm Danny, and this is a new episode from the Human Odyssey series from English Plus Podcast. Let's start with a confession. You are, at this very moment, haunted. But don't bother looking over your shoulder. This ghost isn't hiding in your closet or under your bed. It's inside you. It's a rhythmic, persistent, and fantastically ancient phantom. It's the first sound you ever heard. A muffled, steady thump-thump, thump-thump. The sound of your mother's heart. Your personal and exclusive opening act for the grand concert of life. This is where the story of music begins. Not with a Stradivarius, not with a perfectly coiffed Mozart, and certainly not with whatever bafflingly popular mumble rapper is currently trending. It begins in the dark, with a beat. It begins with the simple biological truth that we are creatures of rhythm. Our hearts beat. Our lungs expand and contract. We walk in a cadence of left, right, left. We are walking, talking, thinking drum machines. Imagine, if you will, a person. Let's call her Una. The time is, well, let's just say it's a long, long time ago. The kind of long ago where the primary difference between a good day and a bad day is whether or not you become a light snack for a saber-toothed cat. Una's world is a symphony of natural rhythms. The drip of water in her cave, the howling percussion of a thunderstorm, the frantic, terrified drumming of a fleeting animal's hooves. Her own heart hammers against her ribs when danger is near. A biological alarm system set an allegro. One evening, huddled around the life-giving glow of a fire, Una does something remarkable. She's gnawing on the leftover bone of some unfortunate beast. It's hollow, absent. She taps it against a rock. Talk. The sound is sharp, clean. It cuts through the crackle of the flames. She does it again. Talk. And again. Talk, talk, talk. A few of her clan mates look up from their own marrow-sucking activities. Una, perhaps feeling the first stirrings of stage presence, varies the rhythm. Talk, 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 talk. Another clan member, let's call him Grok, a man whose primary skills involve pointing at things and grunting, picks up a stick and starts banging it on a log. Tut, 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 tut. What's happening here is nothing short of magic. Una and Grok aren't communicating specific information. They aren't saying, look out for that lurking predator. Or, I'd really fancy some more of that roasted mammoth. They are doing something far more profound. They are synchronizing. Their individual internal rhythms are locking together, creating a shared pulse. The small clan, for a few brief moments, ceases to be a collection of individuals and becomes a single, breathing, tapping organism. They are sharing an experience, a feeling, without a single word. They have, in a very real sense, just invented the band. This is the bedrock of music, rhythm. It's the organizational principle of sound. It creates order out of chaos. For our ancient ancestors, this wasn't an art form. It was a survival tool. A cohesive, synchronized group is a stronger group. Rhythmic chanting could coordinate the hauling of a massive stone or the rowing of a canoe. A shared beat could heighten emotions for the ritual, stealing nerves for a hunt, or celebrating a successful kill. It was a technology of connection, the world's first social network powered by sticks and stones. It was a way of reminding ourselves that in a vast, terrifying, and often silent world, we were not alone. Our hearts beat together. Tum-tum, tok-tok. For thousands of years, this was music. It was rhythm, pulse, and the raw guttural power of the human voice joining in a chant. It was functional, it was communal, and it was powerful. But it was also, if we're being honest, a little one note. Literally, the story was missing its next great protagonist, melody. Now let's jump forward in time. We leave Una and Grog to their primordial jam session and travel to a place of sun-baked earth and whispering reeds along the Nile River. Here we meet Merit, a young woman whose job is to scare birds away from the precious grain fields. It's a boring job. It involves a lot of shouting and waving her arms around, neither of which are particularly fulfilling career paths. One day, while sitting by the river, she plucks a long, hollow reed. The wind, it so happens, is blowing. As it passes over the top of the broken reed, it makes a sound. A soft, breathy whistle. A single, sustained note. It is, for a moment, the loneliest sound in the world. Merit is captivated. She blows into it herself. The note hangs in the hot, still air. It's a sound that seems to come from her, but also from the whole world. Boredom, it turns out, is the mother of invention. Merit spends her days fooling around with these reeds. She discovers that a shorter reed makes a higher sound, a longer one, a lower sound. This is a monumental discovery. The kind of thing that should have earned her a Nobel Prize had Nobel Prizes been invented yet. She hasn't just found a new noise. She has stumbled upon the concept of pitch. One afternoon, she takes several reeds of different lengths and ties them together with a strip of leather. By moving the makeshift instrument across her lips, she can move from one pitch to another. It's not exactly a symphony, but it's a sequence of notes. It's a tune. It's a melody. Well, this changes everything. If rhythm is the heartbeat of music, melody is its voice. A melody can do things a simple beat cannot. It can rise and fall like a sigh. It can leap like a joyful shout. It can meander like a curious thought. Merit can now play the sound of a soaring bird or the gentle lapping of the river. She can play the feeling of sadness that comes with the setting sun and the feeling of hope that arrives with the dawn. She has given a voice to her inner world. This invention, or variations of it, was happening all over the globe. In China, ancient legends speak of Ling Lun crafting the first bamboo pipes to imitate the song of the phoenix. In the wind-swept hills of Ireland, someone drilled holes into a hollowed-out bird bone, creating a simple flute. These weren't just toys. They were emotional tools. Now fast forward again, this time to ancient Greece, where they took this melody thing and really ran with it. Picture a man named Damon. He's a philosopher, a musician, and a bit of a party animal. For Damon and his contemporaries like the famous Pythagoras, music wasn't just entertainment. It was a fundamental force of the universe. They believed that the same mathematical ratios that governed the stars and planets also governed musical sounds. Pythagoras, so the story goes, was walking past a blacksmith's shop and heard an amazing sound. The ringing of 4 different hammers striking an anvil. They sounded, well, good together. He rushed in and discovered that the hammers' weights were in simple mathematical ratios to one another. 12, 9, 8, 6. This was a revelation. The universe, it seemed, had a favorite playlist, and it was based on math. They discovered that plucking a string and then dividing it exactly in half produced a note that was an octave higher. The same note, but in a different register. Dividing it into other simple fractions gave you other pleasing consonant sounds. This was the birth of musical theory. It was the moment we started to understand the why behind the what. Why do some notes sound good together and others sound like a cat being put through a wood chipper? Because of math. Because of physics. The Greeks called this concept musica, the art of the muses. But it encompassed not just sound, but also poetry, dance, and the mathematical harmony of the cosmos. They believed music could directly affect your ethos, your character. Certain melodies could make you brave and noble. Others could make you lazy and decadent. They were, in essence, the first people to argue about the corrupting influence of popular music on the youth. Some things, it seems, never change. Now, from Merritt's simple reed pipe to the complex theories of the Greeks, melody had given humanity a way to paint with sound. It was the birth of the song, the anthem, the lullaby, and the lament. It was the sound of the human soul finally learning to speak. For a very long time, music was a single-track road. You had a rhythm and you had a melody laid on top of it. One voice, one line of music at a time. It could be beautiful, haunting, and powerful. But the next great revolution was about to add a third dimension. It was about to build a cathedral of sound. This was the dawn of harmony. Our next stop is a chilly, damp monastery in medieval Europe, around the 9th century. Let's meet Brother Thomas. His life is, to put it mildly, repetitive. Prayer, chores, chanting. Chanting, chores, prayer. The chanting is particularly important. It's called Gregorian chant, a single flowing melodic line sung in unison by the monks. It's meant to be divine, otherworldly, and free from the messy, foot-tapping rhythms of secular life. One morning, during the usual session of chanting, something strange happens. Brother Leo, standing next to Thomas, is having a bad day. Maybe his porridge was lumpy, maybe his robes are extra scratchy, who knows? Whatever the reason, he's not quite singing the same notes as everyone else. He's singing the same melodic shape, but he's starting a few notes lower. So while Thomas and the others are singing Kyrie eleison, Brother Leo, in his funk, is singing a parallel line underneath Kyrie eleison. The effect is astonishing. The sound suddenly has depth. It's richer, bigger. It's as if a line drawing has suddenly been given shading and perspective. Thomas is so stunned he almost forgets the words. This isn't unison anymore. This is something else. This is two distinct melodies working together. Now, of course, the abbot was probably furious. Conformity was key. This kind of spontaneous, multi-layered singing, called organum, was likely seen as a dangerous, flashy innovation at first. A bit too much fun for a solemn prayer. But you can't put the genie back in the bottle. The sound was just too compelling, too beautiful. It felt to those monks like a more accurate reflection of the glory of God. The single voice was the voice of man. The multiple voices woven together were the sound of heaven itself. This was the birth of harmony, and it would change Western music forever. It was a fundamentally different way of thinking about sound. It wasn't just about the horizontal progression of a melody anymore. It was about the vertical relationship between notes played at the same time. It was about the chord. The concept of consonance and dissonance became crucial. Consonant harmonies, like the ones Pythagoras had identified, felt stable, resolved, and pleasing. Dissonant harmonies felt tense, unstable, and created a craving for resolution. Music, for the first time, had suspense. A composer could create a moment of tension with a dissonant chord, holding the listener in a state of anticipation before finally resolving it into a pleasing consonant chord, giving a feeling of release and satisfaction. This is a powerful storytelling tool. Think of the score in a horror movie. The composer uses clashing, dissonant chords to make you feel anxious and on edge. When the hero finally escapes and the sun rises, the music resolves into a peaceful consonant harmony and you feel your shoulders relax. That's the trick that's over 1,000 years old. Over the next few centuries, this idea blossomed. Composers went from 2 parallel lines to 3, then 4. They discovered that the lines didn't just have to move in parallel. They could move independently, weaving in and out of each other in a complex tapestry of sound called polyphony. Listening to a piece by a late Renaissance master like Palestrina is like stepping inside a kaleidoscope of sound. There isn't one main melody. There are multiple, equally important melodies, all singing at once, yet all fitting together in a coherent, shimmering whole. It was the sonic equivalent of the magnificent cathedrals these composers worked in. Intricate, awe-inspiring, and designed to draw the listener's mind towards the divine. Harmony gave music architecture. It allowed for the construction of massive, complex structures of sound that could convey profound emotional and spiritual ideas. It was a journey from a single path to a bustling city of intersecting streets. Music was no longer just a voice, it was a world. For centuries, the composer was largely anonymous. A humble servant of God or a craftsman in the employ of a nobleman. The music was about the institution, not the individual. But as the Renaissance gave way to the Baroque and Classical eras, a new character strode onto the stage of musical history. The genius, the artist, the individual with something to say. Let's zero in on one man who represents this shift more than any other. His name is Ludwig van Beethoven. And he is, by all accounts, a very grumpy man. He's living in Vienna at the turn of the 19th century, a time of immense social and political upheaval. The old world of aristocratic patronage is dying, and the new world of the self-made artist is being born. Beethoven's music sounds different. It's not the elegant, well-ordered music of Mozart, designed to please a prince. It's dramatic, volatile, and full of raw, unfiltered emotion. It's the sound of a man wrestling with fate. And wrestle he did. Beethoven, a composer and pianist, was going deaf. It's a cosmic joke of such staggering cruelty it's hard to comprehend. The man whose entire life was sound was being plunged into silence. This is where the story gets truly incredible. In 1802, convinced his deafness was incurable, Beethoven wrote a letter to his brothers, a document now known as the Heiligenstadt Testament. It's a heartbreaking confession of despair and suicidal thoughts. But in it, he makes a decision. He will not end his life. He will live for his art. It seemed impossible to leave the world until I had produced all that I felt called upon to produce, he wrote. What followed was a creative explosion that changed music forever. He took the established forms, the symphony, the sonata, and shattered them, rebuilding them to contain the sheer scale of his own feelings. Listen to the opening of his Fifth Symphony. Ba-ba-ba-bum. It's not a pleasant little tune. It's an assertion. It's aggressive, demanding. Beethoven himself supposedly described it as fate knocking at the door. This isn't background music for a dinner party. This is the soundtrack to a struggle for the human soul. The symphony that follows is a journey from darkness to light. From struggle, the stormy C minor of the first movement, to triumph, the blazing C major of the finale. It's a narrative. It's his narrative. For the first time, an audience wasn't just listening to well-crafted music. They were being taken inside the emotional world of the composer. They were feeling his rage, his despair, his hope, and his ultimate victory. The self, with all its messy, glorious, and contradictory emotions, had become the subject of the symphony. This ripped the doors open. The Romantic era that followed Beethoven was all about individual expression, emotion, and storytelling. Composers like Wagner created epic operas based on myths and legends, using specific musical themes called leitmotifs to represent characters, objects, and ideas. You hear a certain theme, you know the hero is coming. You hear another, you know the magic sword is near. It's a technique that's still used constantly in film scores. John Williams' work on Star Wars is pure Wagner. The Imperial March is just a leitmotif for Darth Vader. Music was no longer just a reflection of cosmic order or divine praise. It was a mirror held up to the human heart. It could tell stories, paint pictures, and explore the deepest corners of our inner lives. The ghost in the machine was no longer just a heartbeat. It was a personality. Our story so far has been largely a tale of the powerful, the privileged, and the pious. It's been set in cathedrals, concert halls, and the courts of kings. But music has always had another life, a parallel history lived out in fields, taverns, and on front porches. And in the 20th century, that history would explode into the mainstream, fueled by technology and profound social change. Let's travel to the Mississippi Delta at the turn of the 20th century. Here, in the crushing poverty and systemic racism of the post-slavery South, a new sound is being born. It's played on cheap, battered guitars, and it's sung by people with nothing left to lose. It's the blues. The blues is the direct descendant of the spirituals and work songs of enslaved Africans. But it's something new, too. It's deeply personal, yet universally relatable. It's music about hardship, about love, about loss, about the simple, gut-wrenching realities of life. It's built around a simple structure, the 12-bar blues, and a unique scale that includes blue notes, flattened notes that hover between the major and minor pitches of European music. These notes are the sound of pain itself. They are the crack in the voice, the cry of a soul in anguish. When a man like Robert Johnson stands at a dusty crossroads and sings about having a hellhound on my trail, he's doing exactly what Beethoven did. He's pouring his personal struggle into his music. But the context is worlds away. This isn't an abstract battle with fate. This is a raw, immediate expression of a brutal reality. And here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. This raw, rural music starts to migrate. As millions of African Americans move from the rural South to cities like Chicago, Memphis, and New Orleans, they take the blues with them. In the loud, chaotic, and electrifying environment of the city, the blues plugs in. The acoustic guitar is swapped for an electric one. The solo singer is joined by a rhythm section of drums and bass. The tempo gets faster. The music gets louder. In New Orleans, the blues collides with the brass band tradition and the syncopated rhythms of ragtime. And in a glorious improvisational explosion, jazz is born. Jazz is music of freedom and spontaneity. It keeps the emotional honesty of the blues but adds a layer of sophisticated harmony and a radical emphasis on improvisation. The musician is no longer just playing the notes on the page. They are creating the music in the moment, having a conversation with the other members of the band. This music of the marginalized, the blues and its children, becomes the dominant force in popular music for the entire century. It's the fertile soil from which everything else grows. You can draw a direct line from a sharecropper singing on his porch in Mississippi to a young, sneering Elvis Presley swiveling his hips on television. Rock and roll is fundamentally the blues just sped up and marketed to white teenagers. From there, the family tree explodes. R&B, soul, funk, metal, hip-hop, all of it, in one way or another, is carrying the DNA of those blue notes. Simultaneously, technology was changing not just how music was distributed, but what it could be. The invention of recording meant that a musical performance was no longer a fleeting moment in time. It could be captured, owned, and replayed. The invention of the synthesizer meant that musicians were no longer limited to the sounds they could make with wood, brass, and string. They could create entirely new sounds, sonic landscapes that had never existed before. From the mind-bending experiments of Pink Floyd to the dance floor ecstasy of disco and the digital architecture of electronic dance music, the very definition of what constitutes an instrument, a band, or a song has been stretched to its limits. And that brings us to now. You, sitting here listening to this. You have more music available to you at this very moment than Emperor Joseph II did in his entire lifetime. With a click, you can listen to a pygmy chant from the Congo, a Beethoven symphony, a Japanese koto concerto, a Brazilian samba, or the latest hyperpop track that sounds like a dial-up modem having a seizure. The entire sprawling 100,000-year history of music is at your fingertips. The ghost in the machine is still there. Your heart is still beating that steady primal rhythm. That's why you can't help but tap your foot when a good beat drops. But that ghost is now connected to billions of other ghosts, past and present. When you listen to a heart-wrenching ballad, you are connecting with merit, discovering that a sequence of notes can mirror the shape of a feeling. When you get goosebumps from a powerful chord progression in a movie score, you are connecting with Brother Thomas, hearing the awe-inspiring power of harmony for the first time. When you listen to an artist sing about their deepest insecurities and triumphs, you are connecting with Beethoven, who taught us that music could be a diary of the soul. And when you listen to the raw, honest power of a rock song or a hip-hop track, you are connecting with the spirit of the blues, the unbreakable human need to make something beautiful out of pain. The story of music is the story of a simple, profound idea. That sound can be organized to communicate what lies beyond words. It's a story of tapping a bone on a rock, of blowing across a reed, of weaving voices into a cathedral of sound. It's a story that's constantly evolving, a river fed by countless streams of culture, technology, and individual genius. It is the longest, most epic, and most collaborative composition in human history. And it's a song that we are all part of. All you have to do is listen. And with that, we come to the end of our episode, my friends, the end of another episode from the Human Odyssey series. So I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as I enjoyed creating it. Don't forget to come back next week for another episode from the Human Odyssey series. We're going to talk about another story, of course. And that's everything for today. Don't forget that you can unlock access to all what I post on English Plus Podcast by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or on Patreon. You can find the links in the description of the episode. Thank you again for listening. I will see you next time. Don't forget, never stop learning with English Plus Podcast.